Hey, good morning. Let's go over today's trade plan. So in the overnight session, the buy side has been more dominant and the markets have been trending higher on the smaller time frames. So our overnight bias heading into the open is bullish, but the short term and the larger time frame bias continues to be neutral. Aside from that, today is Columbus Day. It is a bank holiday, which can result in lighter volume. And when you are running on lighter volume, there is generally a lack of follow through on short term directional moves. So with that in mind, even though the market has been fairly bullish in the overnight session, it is now heading into resistance. And if there is not enough sustained upside momentum and broad market strength, then even though the market can attempt a breakout, it can still struggle at the resistance zones above. So in order to get a breakout above 58 to 60 half, we are going to have to see some pretty strong upside momentum, broad market strength, and the other markets participating in the move. And that can result in a breakout attempt. But given the lighter volume, we can still chop and, at least on the smaller time frames, reject the resistance zones above. So above 58 to 60 half, we have resistance at 62.75 to 64.75, and then stronger resistance at 66.75 to 68.75, and finally 70.75 to 72.75. So even though the buyers are dominant here, we just have to really question the reward to risk of initiating a trade at a fairly high price. And if there's enough momentum, then perhaps there can be some follow through. But from a location perspective, if you're entering long at 58 to 60 half, it's a very aggressive price, and you need that momentum to sustain in order for that trade idea to work. And again, if the volume remains fairly light because of the bank holiday, then it's just going to make it even more difficult for that trade to really work out. On the downside, we have the key high volume node at 52 half to 53, followed by support at 48 half to 50 half, which marks the overnight low, as well as the previous VPOC at 49 quarter. In the event of a pullback, that's an area where buy side can defend, but we do need to assess the situation in real time to determine whether there is enough reward to risk to initiate a long at 48 half to 50 half. Because even though from a location perspective that is an area of support, we need to make sure that we're not seeing excess weakness and that there's enough of a profit target there to justify taking the trade, because right below we have the gap fill at 46.50. And then in the event of an extended move lower, buyers can be active at 40 half to 42 half, and especially at 36 to 38 half, which marks last week's low. So that's a larger time frame area of support. So even in the event of a rejection or a failed breakout attempt, the market could just continue balancing in a fairly narrow range because of the lighter volume holiday session. So the markets are open, but it is a bank holiday, and typically we do get more choppy price action in a narrower range on Columbus Day. So that's just something to be mindful of. That means that the opportunity potential, the reward potential, is going to be fairly low compared to any other normal day. So take that into account and just be more selective on the trades that are taken, and make sure that you have good trade location, because good trade location will allow you to sit through some short-term chop and at least get close to 2R out of a trade setup. Whereas if you're in from poor trade location and the market starts shopping around, you're not really going to have the conviction probably to see that trade through. So when the market's running on light volume, when the opportunity potential is fairly questionable, the one thing that you don't want to sacrifice is good trade location. So that means if you're shorting, make sure you're doing it at a good zone, and if you're going long, then it's going to be better to wait for a pullback to support or a key area before initiating a long setup. So those are the main ideas heading into the open. Looking at the other markets, Nasdaq is approaching larger time frame resistance up near the 48.83 all the way up towards 48.92, which is this year's high. Russell is comparatively weak and is currently setting up a negative divergence On the upside in the Russell, keep an eye on 1243 to 1245. That's a high volume area in the Russell. And then beyond that, we have the swing high at 1248.5, and then resistance around the 1252 to 1255 area, which can be a area where sell side steps into Russell, into TF. So keep an eye on these other markets as well. Those are our main ideas heading into the open. Let's see if the sell side can still defend at initial resistance or at one of the resistance zones above, and we'll take it from there.